The night before the wedding, my younger sister, Jade Smith, who was about to marry into a wealthy family, suddenly spoke up. "Jade, don't be a bridesmaid tomorrow." I was helping her try on a bracelet I had meticulously threaded bead by bead so I didn't quite hear her. Her voice was as soft and delicate as always. "Even though you're my only sister, the vitiligo patch on your face. Guess we'll talk. I don't want Ethan to see me as a flawless gem with a crack in it. To be blunt, having you stand next to me will embarrass me." I stopped. I hadn't expected her to think so little of me. Mom, who was draping a shawl over her, didn't object at all, as if she agreed with what her daughter was saying. "You've always been good to me, sis. You've yielded to me since we were little. But tomorrow is my big day. Ethan comes from a good background, and I don't want his friends to mock him because of you, saying our family is trash." I looked down at the bracelet made of 108 glittering pearls in my hand. It was a dowry gift I had personally chosen and made for her. Now, this gift felt like a part of my own inadequacy. I slowly removed the bracelet from her wrist and placed it back in the box. "All right," I said softly. Serena sighed in relief. "You're the best, sis, I know it. You love me the most." Mom stroked her long, smooth hair, her eyes filled with pride. "Stop standing here. Go rest. Tomorrow, you have to be the most beautiful bride." I quietly cleared everything on the table, carefully putting away each accessory intended for the maid of honor. Truthfully, I had long grown used to this feeling. That familiarity started when I was 13, that summer. I was gravely ill, leaving a vitiligo patch the size of a fingernail on my left cheek. Initially, Mom and Dad were very worried and took me everywhere for treatment. But 6 months later, my sister, then 11, discovered a similar vitiligo patch on her back while bathing. The atmosphere in our family immediately grew heavy. The doctor said it was an immune-related condition. The treatment would be long, expensive, and there was no guarantee of a complete cure. That night, I was thirsty and got up in the middle of the night, overhearing Mom and Dad arguing in their room. Dad said, "Both of them? The company just started up. Where will we get the money?" Mom spoke quietly, "Then treat one first. Serena is young. She has a long future ahead, and her patch is on her back where it can be hidden. Her chances of a cure are also higher." "What about Jade?" Dad asked. "Jade is the older sister. She has to yield to the younger one. Besides, her patch is on her face. It's already ruined, so treating it would just be a waste of money." The glass of water in my hand fell to the floor, shattering. I didn't cry. I silently cleaned up the shards, then returned to my room and pulled the blanket over my head. From that day on, I became the understanding elder sister they wanted. All the family's resources began to be poured into Jade Smith. I only ever received the phrase, "You have to yield to your sister." In the cold indifference, my vitiligo patch spread from the size of a fingernail to cover nearly half my face, like an imperfect gem. Back in the present, I carefully put the last piece of jewelry into the box. "Mom, I'll head home first." Mom finally looked at me, frowning. "Remember to come early tomorrow to help out. Even if you're not the bridesmaid, there are still lots of miscellaneous tasks for the wedding." Yes, I walked out of my sister's room. In the living room, Dad was chatting happily with my sister's fiancés. When he saw me, Ethan Ford paused his smile slightly. He only nodded as a greeting. His gaze lingered on the vitiligo patch on my face for less than half a second before quickly turning away. We were once close childhood friends. Before he went to study abroad, he held my hand and said, "Jade, wait for me to return." But when he returned, he saw me with a flawed face and my beautiful, talented younger sister, and he felt disappointed. And I never told him that the idea to help my sister shine at the company was entirely mine. Mom once said, "You have to yield to your sister. You have to support her." I walked out of the house. The cool night wind caressed my face. I looked up at the moon, bright, round, and flawless. The next day, before dawn, I arrived at the venue. Although I was no longer the bridesmaid, I still had a lot of work to do. From a final confirmation with the florists to discussing the wedding menu details and repeatedly practicing the guest reception process. I was like a wound-up top, spinning non-stop. Mom was pleased with how well-behaved I was. She pulled me into the makeup room and told the makeup artist working on Serena, "Our Serena is beautiful, naturally, and her skin is flawless. Just a light touch of makeup and she looks like a goddess." She turned to me and smiled faintly. Jade, you should also ask the makeup artist to cover up your vitiligo patch. We have many guests today. Don't let it show too much. The patch on my face was quite large. No matter how thick the makeup, it couldn't fully cover it. It only made the skin look more uneven and noticeable. I had tried it once, but gave up. No need, Mom. I have to be backstage watching the logistics. I don't have enough time. The makeup artist and the bridesmaids looked at me with pity. I pretended not to see them. When the ceremony began, I stood in a quiet corner of the banquet hall, holding a walkie-talkie and ready to handle any situation. Serena, wearing the wedding dress I had chosen for her, held Dad's arm and walked onto the stage toward Ethan Ford. She truly looked beautiful, like a princess from a fairy tale. Dad placed her hand in Ethan's, his eyes red, choking up as he said, "Ethan, I'm handing over our family's most precious treasure to you. Please treat her well." Everyone below applauded thunderously while I felt like an outsider. Every detail of this wedding was the result of my 6 months of effort. Even the red sports car that was Serena's dowry, I had scraped together years of savings to pay the down payment. Mom and Dad had said, "The family spent a lot on your sister's treatment. The dowry can't be too simple, or the in-laws will look down on us. As the older sister, it's only natural for you to contribute a bit more. But right now, no one remembered me." The MC on stage enthusiastically introduced the bride, Serena Smith, saying she was not only beautiful, but also the right-hand woman of CEO Ford. Many of the company's major projects are handled by her. Truly a talent. I bowed my head, a bitter smile playing on my lips. All those projects and sleepless nights ultimately became the glory reserved for her. When it came time to toast, they moved from table to table. When they reached Ethan Ford's friend's table, a man whistled and loudly joked, "Ford, your wife is really special." His eyes, undisguised, were looking directly at me. The entire hall suddenly fell silent for a moment. Serena turned pale. She gripped Ethan Ford's hand tightly. Mom immediately laughed and said, "She never pays attention to her appearance, just focuses on work. She is a very practical person." Ethan Ford raised his glass, glancing at me with a cold indifference. "Don't talk nonsense. She's my wife, Jade Smith." I also raised my glass and drank in one gulp, then smiled at them. "Everyone, please continue. I need to check on the situation in the kitchen." I turned and left, the whispers of the guests rising behind me. What a pity. I heard CEO Ford and the bride were childhood friends initially. Yeah, but looking at her, who would dare to marry her? It's just embarrassing to take her out. The younger sister, who's both beautiful and talented, is much more worthy of CEO Ford. I walked into the empty inner area, finally finding some air to breathe. On my phone screen was an old photo of me and Ethan Ford from high school. Back then, the vitiligo on my face could still be covered with makeup, and I smiled brightly, without a worry. As for Ethan Ford, his eyes were only on me. "Jade, you weren't like this before." That was the sentence he had said when he returned and saw me next to my excellent, younger sister. Yes, I wasn't the same. The once vibrant and strong girl, Jade Smith, had long disappeared, destroyed by my parents' constant refrain, "You have to yield to your sister." I deleted the photo, deleting a broken and rotten memory. Serena Smith and Ethan Ford went on a 2-week honeymoon to an island. During that half-month, the company was surprisingly quiet. I finally got to fully dedicate myself to the new project I was managing, the Cloud Q smart home system. On Serena's first day back, she immediately walked into my office. "Sis, the honeymoon was exhausting. Ethan kept forcing me to go everywhere." She complained, but her voice held a note of pride. I nodded. "Get some rest then." "Rest? Why would I rest?" She sat down across from me, picking up the project plan on the table to look at it. "Ethan says this Cloud Q project is very important. It's the company's strategic priority for the second half of the year, so there can be no mistakes." My heart sank. I had a bad feeling, and Serena looked up, smiling innocently. "So Ethan decided to put me in charge of this project. Since you have more experience, would you mind being my assistant, helping me check and supervise?" My fingers clenched, nails digging deep into my palm. Based on what? Those 3 words were stuck in my throat, but I couldn't utter them. I looked at her. Her expression was the same as when she was 10 and snatched my only doll. Back then, Mom had also said, "Serena likes it. You're the older sister, yield to her." Is this the company's decision or CEO Ford's? What's the difference? Serena chuckled, hugging the project plan to her chest. Don't worry, sis. If the project is successful, I won't forget your efforts. We're sisters. What's yours is mine. Why be so clear about the division? With that, she confidently walked out of the room. The office was quiet again, leaving only me and a cold emptiness in my heart. That evening, I went home. Mom and Dad were watching TV. "Have you eaten?" Mom asked. I went straight to the point. "Mom, the company assigned the Cloud Q project to Serena." Mom paused for a moment, then smiled brightly. "Really? That's great. Our Serena is truly talented." Newly married and already given such a major responsibility, Ethan didn't misjudge her. Dad nodded in agreement. Serena is very diligent, and with her sister's support, this project will definitely succeed. Every word was like a heavy stone dropping into my heart. That project was handled by me from beginning to end. "I know," Mom's voice remained soft as if nothing was wrong, "but you're the older sister. Helping your sibling is normal. Now Serena is the boss. Her position is stable, so your work at the company will be easier too, right?" "Easier?" I laughed bitterly. "Mom, are you saying I have to sacrifice everything for my sister?" "Jade Smith!" Dad angrily yelled, his face changing color. "What kind of talk is that to your mother? The whole family has been dedicated to your sister for years. What's the problem if you help her a little, sacrifice a little? Has the flaw on your face made you so narrow-minded and jealous?" I looked at the two people I used to call parents and suddenly found them terrifyingly distant. They couldn't see my efforts, nor did they recognize the pain I was enduring. They only saw my flaw and my sister's perfection. I took a deep breath, suppressing the lump in my throat. "All right, I understand." I turned and walked away. "Where are you going?" Mom called after me. "Work at the company." I didn't dare turn back, afraid they would see the tears glistening in my eyes. That night, I worked overtime constantly at the company. I gathered all the critical data for the project, organized it, and sent it to Serena Smith. At the end of the email, I wrote only one sentence. "This is the last time I yield to you." For the next month, I became Serena Smith's assistant. Ethan Ford's eyes, when looking at Serena, were always full of love and admiration. Occasionally, his gaze brushed past me, but I only saw deeper disappointment. Until that day, Dad suddenly called, "Jade, hurry to the hospital. Your mother suddenly fainted." I immediately rushed to the hospital. Mom had been taken into the emergency room. Dad stood in the hallway, his face ashen. Serena was tightly hugging Ethan Ford, sobbing uncontrollably. The doctor came out with a worried expression. "The patient has acute liver failure and needs an immediate liver transplant." "Liver transplant?" Dad's voice trembled. "What about the donor's liver?" "Sir, we've sent information to the National Organ Donation Network, but we can't determine the waiting time. The best current solution is a living relative donor. The patient has the rare Rh-negative B blood type. Which of you has that blood type?" Everyone looked at each other. Dad had type A, Ethan had type O. Serena and I were taken for blood tests. The waiting time for the results felt like centuries. Serena tightly held my hand. Her hand was ice cold and constantly trembling. "Sis, I'm scared. I'm so scared." I held her hand, gently stroking the back of it. An hour later, the nurse brought out the test results. "Who is Jade Smith?" "That's me." I stood up. "After preliminary testing, your blood type perfectly matches the patient. You can be a donor." All eyes turned to me. Serena let go of my hand, sighing in relief. The nurse turned to her with a matter-of-fact tone. "Serena Smith, your blood type is B positive. It is not compatible." Serena was stunned. The whole family knew Mom had the rare Rh-negative panda blood. Everyone thought at least one of the sisters would inherit it, but no one expected the one with the rare blood type to be me, the daughter with the vitiligo on her face, the one who had been forgotten since childhood. Mom was moved to a special recovery room. The surgery was scheduled for the next morning. Before the time for surgery, I went to visit Mom. She was lying on the hospital bed, her body connected to 4 lines and tubes. When she saw me, her cloudy eyes suddenly lit up and she tried to reach for me. I stepped closer and took her hand. She whispered in a weak voice, "Serena, my good daughter, I knew you would save me." She called my sister's name and squeezed my hand tighter. In that moment, I felt like the blood in my body had frozen. Even between life and death, her heart only held her most perfect daughter. I felt like my own name wasn't even worthy of her memory. I slowly peeled each of her fingers off mine, looking at her with an expressionless face. When I stepped out of the room, Dad and Ethan Ford immediately rushed over. "Jade, how's your mother?" Seeing the worry and anticipation on their faces, I suddenly felt amused. "The surgery can proceed, but I have one condition." Everyone was stunned. Dad frowned deeply, the first to react. "Jade Smith? What are you saying? That's your mother. How dare you demand a condition?" "Yes, she is my mother." I looked him straight in the eye. "But the person who will be on the operating table, having a portion of her liver cut out, is me." My gaze lingered on Dad, Ethan Ford, and finally, Serena Smith. "I want everyone to write a declaration of severed relations. It must explicitly state, I, Jade Smith, donate a liver to save my mother. And from this moment forward, have no further connection to this family." "Are you insane?" Dad was so angry his body shook. He pointed at me and yelled, "Just for a liver? You dare to sever ties with your parents?" Ignoring him, I continued my demands. "I also want the company to issue a public announcement clarifying who the true person in charge of the Cloud Q project was. And I want Serena Smith to personally apologize to me in front of the entire project department." Serena Smith looked fragile, hiding behind Ethan Ford. "Sis, you're being too much. You know Mom can't live without you, so why?" I coldly interrupted her. "When you knew I couldn't live without my parents' love, why did you constantly discard me? Compared to the over 10 years you people stripped everything away from me, my request now is too light." Ethan Ford's expression turned ugly. He spoke up, trying to mediate. "Jade, severing ties is a bit extreme, don't you think? After all, your family. You don't have to go that far. Regarding the project, I agree with you. I'll handle it immediately." "Mr. Ford," I called him coldly, "this is my family's private matter. I don't need you to worry." I turned to my father, who was too angry to speak. "My conditions are set. Now agree to draft the declaration, prepare the announcement, and the apology. Or you can wait for that organ donation decision, which might never come." I turned as if to leave. "Wait." Dad quickly called me back. "Fine. You've grown up and feel so capable now. Is that it?" He gritted his teeth, speaking each word bitterly. "I'll write it. I want to see how a girl with a scar on her face like you will survive after cutting ties with this family." He went to the nurse's station for paper and a pen, wrote the declaration, and slammed the paper down in front of me. "Sign it, fingerprint it, and go save your mother." I bent down and picked up the paper. It was filled with contempt for me. The last sentence read, "Jade Smith is henceforth no longer related to the Smith family." I took out the lipstick I carried, forcefully pressed my thumb onto the paper, leaving a bold lipstick smudge as my fingerprint next to my name. "Mr. Ford, I need you to be a witness." Ethan Ford looked at me for a long time, his gaze deep. "All right." Serena Smith tried to say something, but Ethan Ford's serious look stopped her. She looked at me with resentment and unwillingness. In my heart, there was only empty peace. I had taken back what was mine, but I had to pay with my own body. It was truly sad. The next morning, before the surgery began, I received a notice from the company. The document, bearing the official seal, clearly stated that the entire process and development of the Cloud Q project were independently managed by me, Jade Smith. Serena Smith was only a later supporter. Ethan Ford personally signed the confirmation. Immediately after, Serena Smith's phone rang. "Jade Smith, are you satisfied now? Everyone is laughing at me. You've ruined me." "I only took back what belonged to me," I replied coldly. "You." She was too angry for words, then hung up. I deleted the email, turned off my phone, and changed into a surgical gown. As the nurse wheeled me into the operating room, Dad and Ethan Ford stood right outside the door. Dad's expression was complex, as if he wanted to say something, but in the end, he only sighed. Ethan Ford stepped forward slightly, lowering his voice. "Jade, I'm sorry. And thank you." I didn't look at him, just told the nurse, "Let's go." The anesthetic slowly spread through my body, and my consciousness began to fade. Before losing consciousness completely, I thought, this is good. Cutting out a part of my liver was like severing the past relationship with this family. From now on, what I had done for them was enough. I no longer owed them anything. The surgery was successful. I stayed in the hospital for half a month, and my body slowly recovered. During that half month, Dad and Serena Smith visited every day, their attitude very enthusiastic. Dad peeled apples for me. Serena massaged my limbs, which were stiff from lying down for too long. They were reserved, trying to mend the broken relationship. Ethan Ford also visited a few times, but each time he only stood silently outside, looking at me. Then he would set down a bouquet of flowers or a fruit basket and leave without a word. It seemed there was nothing left to discuss between us. Mom recovered well and was moved to a regular room. When she woke up, Dad immediately told her the whole truth. Mom was silent for a long time. When she visited me, she held my hand and seriously looked at the vitiligo patch on my face for the first time. "Jade, I've wronged you all these years." I pulled my hand back and shook my head. "You didn't wrong me. You just didn't love me." A light apology wasn't heavy enough to bear the resentment I had carried for over a decade. Mom's eyes reddened and tears streamed down her face, but I felt absolutely nothing. I didn't need her tears, nor did I need her apology anymore. When I was discharged, I went to the company first. My desk had been tidied up. Colleagues greeted me cheerfully, their eyes showing respect and a touch of awkwardness. After the company issued the announcement correcting the Cloud Q project's lead, the news had spread everywhere. Serena Smith's reputation plummeted quickly. I walked into Ethan Ford's office and placed an envelope on his desk. "What's this?" he asked. "My letter of resignation." Ethan Ford's pupils immediately constricted. "Why, Jade? I realize I was wrong. I misunderstood you before." "Now, everything is clear. The Cloud Q project is still yours. I will fully support you." "No need," I said. "I'm no longer interested in this project, just as I'm no longer interested in that house or in you." "Is it because of Serena Smith?" he asked, his voice anxious. "Don't worry, I've already put her on leave for her to reflect. She won't interfere with your work anymore." "No, it's not because of her," I shook my head. "Ethan, I'm just tired. I don't want to compete anymore, and I don't want to yield anymore." I looked at the man I had loved for so many years. "Do you know? When you came back, the phrase, 'you're not the same as before,' hurt me more than any ridicule. I didn't become this way because I wanted to. My family gradually forced me to this point. I once thought, at least you would be the one to understand everything, to stand by me, but you didn't. Your disappointment was the final drop that broke me." Ethan Ford opened his mouth but couldn't speak a word. I turned and opened the office door. "Ethan Ford, I wish you and Serena Smith happiness on your wedding day." I didn't look back, just walked out of the building I had been attached to for 5 years. The warm sunlight fell on my shoulder, warmer than ever before. I decided to go home one last time. There were still things I wanted to resolve myself. When I opened the door, Serena Smith was sitting on the sofa with a face mask on, and Dad was sitting next to her, reading financial news. Everything was the same as when I left. Nothing had changed. When she saw me, Serena Smith immediately took off her mask and smiled brightly. "Sis, you're back? Is your health better?" Dad also folded the newspaper and cleared his throat. "It's good you're back. Family shouldn't stay angry for long. Your mother keeps mentioning you. Come back and live here. They thought I had come back to submit." I didn't answer and walked straight into my room. The room was the same, except for a few makeup items on the desk that weren't mine. There were also a few of Serena Smith's dresses hanging in the closet. My personal space was, as usual, spontaneously occupied by her. I took out 2 suitcases and started packing my belongings. Serena Smith followed me in, looking at me with confusion. "Sis, what are you doing? Dad already told you, don't overdo it." I didn't answer, just silently placed each item into the suitcase. Dad stood at the door, frowning and yelling, "Jade Smith, have you done enough? You donated a liver." The whole family is grateful, but that doesn't mean you can use it to force your parents. Let me tell you that declaration of severed relations is nothing more than a meaningless piece of paper. I stopped. Force? I laughed. Do you know, Dad? For over 10 years, every night I dreamed of going back to when I was 13. Back to the time before I got sick, when Mom and Dad still loved me. But I don't need it anymore. I rummaged through the side pocket of my old backpack and pulled out a faded notebook. You think I'm just making a scene? I opened the notebook and placed it on the coffee table. Inside were detailed records I had started writing since I was 16. You always said the company was new, and household expenses were high. But do you know? Every penny for Serena Smith's tutoring, talent classes from high school to college, came from my scholarships, and the money I earned tutoring on weekends. Did you think the money Mom took her to Seaside City for luxurious hospital follow-ups came from the company? That was the money I got from giving up my direct admission to graduate school, starting work early and receiving a 2-year salary advance. And Serena's graduation design, you once praised her as so talented. I stayed up all night, making the model and writing the thesis for her. Her own graduation design was rushed in 3 days and only received an average grade. I flipped through the pages of the notebook, tears streaming down my face. Serena Smith's face turned pale, and she was speechless for a moment. My father's expression changed from aggressive disbelief. He took the notebook, carefully looking at the dates, amounts, and detailed notes. His hands started trembling. Why didn't you tell us?" "I did tell you," I replied, looking at him. "When I was in 12th grade, I wanted to apply to the Academy of Fine Arts. Dad, you said it was a waste, impractical, and forced me to study finance to help the company later. Yet, you let Serena take piano lessons because you said a girl with a little talent would have an easier time getting married. When I was a sophomore in college, I wanted to use my savings to try laser treatment, even just once. Mom said the money had to be saved for Serena's follow-up appointments. Every time I spoke up, you people shut me down with the phrase, 'You're the older sister. You have to be understanding.' Gradually, I stopped speaking. It wasn't because you didn't know. It was because you didn't care." Dad's hand trembled as he held the notebook. "And this." I took a folder from the suitcase and dumped it onto the table. One document was the down payment receipt for Serena Smith's red sports car. The person who paid was me. Another was a copy of the list of betrothal gifts from the Ford family. It clearly stated a car of equal value was required as dowry. "Mom and Dad," I looked toward Mom, who had just walked out of the room, her face white, clearly having overheard everything. "You two said the family poured all its money into treating Serena's illness. You said I was the older sister, so I had to help my sibling." I laughed and cried, a bitter smile on my face. "But did you forget? I also have that disease. I was the one abandoned in treatment. All the money you had was spent on Serena. Even the money I earned was transferred to her. So what right do you have to ask me to continue being understanding?" Jade Smith. Mom finally erupted in anger, lunging toward me as if to slap me. But I was faster and grabbed her wrist. "Don't touch me!" The moment I was on the operating table, I told myself, "The part of the liver I cut out is to repay your debt of giving birth to me. From now on, you gave birth to me. I saved you. There is no longer any debt between us." As for Dad, I pushed Mom's hand away and turned to the man in front of me. "I've paid you back, and even more than that." The company's first big project was thanks to the connection I asked my college professor to help you make. When the company was in trouble and finances were near collapse, I used the money I had saved for my own treatment to save you. I even lied that I won a lottery. I turned to Serena Smith, pointed at her, and yelled in despair, "You people cultivated her into a perfect but useless parasite. Everything she has is thanks to being exploited from me. I don't want to sacrifice anymore. This house has never been where I belong. It's just a debt of mine. I spent my youth, health, affection, and future to raise your daughter for over 10 years. Now, I've paid that debt in full." Dad seemed to collapse, sitting on the sofa, the notebook falling to the floor. He always thought he was the pillar of the family, the support for his daughters. But he didn't know that the very child he had personally destroyed was the real foundation of this house. Mom stared at the vitiligo patch on my face, then sobbed uncontrollably. Jade, I was wrong. Truly wrong. It's too late. When I truly needed love, you chose to abandon me. Now, I don't need it anymore. I zipped up my suitcase, not looking at them again. Dad, that declaration of severed relations? I'm going to frame it and hang it on the wall in my new house. It's not just a worthless piece of paper. It's the evidence of my rebirth. I pulled my luggage and walked out of the prison that had held me for over 20 years. Ethan Ford stood outside the door, looking terrible, seemingly having waited a long time. Jade, Mr. Ford, please move. You're blocking my way. He looked at me with eyes full of remorse. I prepared to divorce Serena Smith. Oh, I nodded. Congratulations on deciding at the right time. I walked past him without looking back. I left that city and went to a clinic. I wanted to heal my face. The doctor said that because I had left it too long, I missed the best treatment. Complete recovery was impossible, but with proper treatment, the spread could be halted and the patches could even be partially faded. I accepted this result, just as I accepted that I was an unloved daughter. The treatment process was long. In my free time, I often sat outside in the courtyard to paint. That was my childhood dream. Occasionally, I heard news from old colleagues. Ethan Ford had officially divorced Serena Smith, giving her no chance to cling on. The Ford family was very prestigious and valued reputation. A daughter-in-law whose success was built by undermining her sister was something they could never accept. After being kicked out of the Ford family, Serena Smith returned to the company but couldn't do anything of value. The Cloud Q project quickly became a mess under her hand. My father's company fared no better. Due to a lack of operating capital and the loss of support from the Ford family, the company had to declare bankruptcy just 6 months later. My mother's health grew weaker. Serena Smith alone couldn't handle all of this. Once, a former colleague called me cautiously. Jade, do you hate them? I looked out at the garden, where sunflowers were blooming brightly, and smiled gently. Not anymore. Because hatred consumes energy and emotion, and they are no longer worthy of my effort or feelings. I blocked all contact and completely severed myself from the past. A year later, my painting was displayed in a small local gallery and sold for a relatively high price. I used the money for a skin graft cosmetic surgery. For the surgery, I signed the consent form myself. Before the anesthesia took effect, I suddenly remembered the wedding day when Serena Smith said I was like a gem with a crack. But in reality, a cracked gem can still be recarved and take on a new shape. Just like me, only by breaking the past could I create an entirely new version of myself. The surgery was very successful. The vitiligo patch on my left cheek, the one that had accompanied me for over 10 years, was now only a patch of new, paler skin, like a faint cloud.